Hello, everybody. I wanted to put this quick demo together to give you another piece of information that you can look at to create the service portfolio for higher education. Now, the model I'm going to show you today is largely based off the ECAR document that's referenced below in this document. And what we did is we took that from the EDUCAUSE community, we took the service groups and the services from that document. What I'm going to show you is how we use those services or that structure to go ahead and build it inside of ServiceNow. All of the information I'm talking to today, I'm going to put a link to this share, but it's in our digital services work group share under deliverables. And under that, there's a service portfolio for education. And under that are all these files. Now, what I'm going to do today is take you through this README file, which I have open on the left-hand side here. And we're going to use that README file to go ahead and build out this taxonomy that's represented from the ECAR document. There are some prerequisites in here, so you can read those in the beginning. The prerequisites are for, if you just have ITSM standard, you can get started with that. There's going to be other plugins that I show in here as well, and some of those pieces come from the premium suite for service portfolio management, which is part of IT Service Management Professional. Okay, so the first part of the instructions, they want us to import a university CIO user. So I'm going to go to this clean instance, and it shows to go to user administration users, and I have that shortcut here. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on one of the menus, and then I'm going to go ahead and import XML. And then that file that I showed you that's in the share, I have that downloaded to my local drive. So I can choose the file now, and you'll see it says create university CIO right here. So we're on D. So I create the university CIO, and I can upload that. And I wasn't able to go ahead and import all these individually in terms of the roles. So we're going to open up that university CIO, and we're going to grant those roles manually to that user. So as I go down here, I can go click on the edit button, just like it says here, next to the on the roles related list tab. And then I'm going to be able to go ahead and pick all these different sets out. So if I go to IT and then portfolio manager, that's the first one we want. And then we want portfolio admins. So that IT portfolio management is for ITBM. If you don't have ITBM installed, you won't see it. And then we want the portfolio admin, and we also want the portfolio manager from the and those are for service portfolio management. And then we want the project portfolio user, because there are pieces that we're going to use for this later on. It won't be in this document. We also want SNC internal. There's a couple of places that we're going to need that one. And then the last one we want is the SN_CIM. Now that CIM, that stands for continual improvement management. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where that comes up inside of the process. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save that user, and we're basically done with step one. The next thing I want to do is import the service portfolio record. Right? So if I come into service portfolio and I go into my service portfolio, service portfolios rather, and what I can do is click on this, and I will import the Excel file. So if I go into choose file, and now it'll take me into that import into service portfolios. Okay, so this should import one for me. And when I'm done, I'll just give you a quick look at what we want to check for. So if I go ahead and preview the data, complete import, and then what I should have here now is University of Now is going to be our portfolio. And then you'll see the University CIO, the one that we just created, is the owner of that portfolio. Okay, so the next step we want to do after the portfolio record, I want to import a taxonomy layer definition. So if I come down to taxonomy layer definition, and I click on my list here, I keep going to the wrong list. So I click on any one of these lists rather, and I go import, and it's going to be the same thing. I want to choose my Excel file, and I'm going to import my taxonomy layer definition. And when I import that one, it's going to create the definition that we're going to be able to define our outer ring of the services for. So if I complete this import, right, now we have that in there, and you can see it belongs. It is a layer. The service category is a layer around the University of Now service portfolio. And so that's going to be the next thing we want to do is the taxonomy nodes. So if I go to taxonomy nodes and I do the same thing, I come down here, wrong one again. If I come down to one of these lists and I say import, I'll get it right eventually. And I'll say choose file, and then we're going to bring in our taxonomies. So these are going to be our actual taxonomy nodes. These taxonomy nodes that I'm talking about here will actually represent, so all that uploads, that these taxonomy nodes are actually this layer here, the outer gray layer. Okay, so now once we bring in those taxonomy nodes, I'm going to be able to preview those, and we should see there's 7 of them around the outside, and complete import. And now that'll bring us these nodes that sit under our service portfolio called the University of Now that we initially created. And everything initially is going to be owned by the University CIO user that we created in the beginning. All right, now that we have our nodes defined, what goes under the nodes now are actual services. Right, so we want to go down here and we want to say, okay, I created the layer definition, I created the taxonomy nodes. Now we're going to import the services that go under those nodes. So I come down to my services table, and from services, I am going to go ahead on here and do it right this time. We're going to import. I'm going to choose that Excel file again from our set that I put on our share. We're going to choose that file, and then I'm going to import into services, and that's my file there. Now when I upload these, there should be 52 of these that are done. So we want to make sure that we get all 52 in, and preview the data, and then let's go ahead and say complete import. Now you might get some mistakes here if you have duplicates already where there's services with the same names. What we should observe here, these services are part of this portfolio, and then they belong to certain taxonomy nodes, which are the groups that we created from that outer gray ring on the service. Now there's one more thing before we go into services that I want to show you. And the last thing is we want to import the metrics for the portfolio. And I'll show you where the metrics come in as a next step just before we end here. So if I go into the service portfolio again, and if I go underneath configuration and portfolio metrics, there has to be metrics defined on what we want to track for this portfolio. So what I can do here is I can go ahead and import those metrics as well. So from my file, I have my last file that I have in there that we didn't use, our import SPM portfolio metrics. And what this does is it gives you the basic 5 metrics that we start tracking every service offering in a portfolio on. Okay, so I'll go ahead and upload that and preview that imported data. We have 5 different metrics. Complete the import, and you'll see now what we have for the University of Now portfolio is we have 5 metrics: activity, availability, SAT, breached SLA, and stability. All right, so now what you have basically is we have a bunch of services, but those services aren't in operation yet. So if I go to the service owner workspace, and what I'm going to do, actually before I do that, I am going to, I'll just look at all services. If I was in as the CIO, the university CIO user, I would have a list of things under my services because that's the owner of everything. But if I go to all services here, I can see our services are coming in, but there's no data yet. So what you'll have to do next is you'll have to go in to each of the areas and define what your offerings are. Right, so if I go into the service portfolio, service portfolios, go to University of Now, I'll see my layers that I defined in there. So I brought in administrative and business, and underneath administrative and business, I brought in 12 business services, right? So all this is what we just imported. If I went under student information systems, and I were to define a service offering under that now, on my service offerings, that's when I could start doing all the metrics, right? So let me show you that real quick and I'll end there for now. So if I do a new under student information systems, I'll do the system of record for students. And I'll just put that in there for now, just the system of record, just so we can do it quickly. Control C. I'll just put that in the short description. And student information system. I'm trying to go too quick here. And then when I go ahead and I save this, what it'll do now is it'll let me go ahead and say, what do I want to roll up from this service? So what you'll have on the bottom here is you'll have edit metric weights. And that last step, that step 6 we did, these are all of the portfolio metrics. So now I could say, how do I want to weight these metrics to create the score for my service? Right, so that one service offering I had, in order to get the health on the service offering, it's going to be 20/20. I'll give it a 5th each and save that. And then what we can have here, you have to do that for each service offering as you go forward. And then in the end, what you'll get is something that looks like this, and it'll have your group, and then it'll have your services underneath like we just did. And then underneath that, it'll have your service offerings. And I'll be able to drill into each service offering and see a score for that offering in terms of the metrics that we're rolling up. So I would be able to see my CSAT score, my total subscribers, any breached SLA. So it gives you some good analytics right out of the box as soon as you get it. That should give you enough to get started. And we'll talk more. I'll try to come up with a second video that actually shows you another way to start populating some of this information. Thank you very much for your time, and good luck getting started with the education service portfolio demo. Thanks, everybody.